guys, greetings and thank you for joining me today. I am Chrysalis and this is Women on Wrestling Editorials. Now this video is going to be a little bit different than the other videos I have uploaded so far because it is going to be addressing my thoughts and perspectives on Black Wednesday, which, as we all know by now, since this is the Monday following that, a considerable number of WWE talent as well as WWE staff and corporate office staff were laid off and or furloughed last week. It came as a bit of a shock to the wrestling community overall, since wrestling has been kind of trying to keep the boat afloat as it was during our current situations revolving around the world pandemic that we are all dealing with. It makes for an interesting topic, I think, and I bring an additional perspective to it because I do happen to have a bachelor's in business administration. So business is something that I've somewhat followed and have at least some degree, literally, of knowledge in. So this is going to be a tagged, teamed video with the video I did as well regarding this week's Pops and Blown Spots. If you're interested in watching that, I'm going to try to put the place card up in here for you to cross-reference, and by all means give that video a little love. So let's move into my thoughts on this. Okay, so this week we are all aware of the fact that a considerable number of talent as well as staff both on the road, in crews, and in the corporate offices were either permanently laid off or furloughed and let go from their contracts from the WWE this week. I'm sure by now we have all seen a considerable number of the videos from the talent that has been let go, such as Drake Maverick, the Canellises, and whatnot. And I think they all did a wonderful job of putting the humanity back into what they do, because I think a lot of people take that for granted or forget about that. The talent, of course, was not the only area of the WWE that was hit. There was a considerable number of staff that were let go, and allegedly the numbers of layoffs for WWE is in the hundreds, which unfortunately under our current circumstances right now does make sense. There are any number of companies of varying sizes and degrees that are doing the same thing. The company that I worked for, that I absolutely loved and fell in love with and was also a part of the entertainment industry, did the exact same thing. It was also a multi-million dollar company that let go of pretty much all of their staff, and we numbered in the hundreds, close to 1,000 for how many people were let go worldwide. It's not an easy situation to be in when you're a business. It is not an easy situation to be in when you are the talent or staff. And it certainly hits hard, especially when you aren't anticipating it. That being said, there have been a varying number of degrees of opinions online with how the WWE handled the layoffs. And I again have to sort of balance this a little bit because having my degree in business administration, I understand the reasons why WWE did what it did. I understand the necessity for why WWE did what it did. And that's hard for people to take into consideration when they are so invested in the people that were let go, and it makes sense. Ultimately, at its base, think what you will, the WWE or any entertainment company is a family. You developed that camaraderie. You develop that you can't go on the road with somebody, with anybody, a couple hundred days a year, more or less 300 days, close to 350 days a year, and not develop those relationships at all levels. And think of what you will about Vince. The man does still go on the road. He does still travel side by side along everybody. He can be a ruthless something I can't say, but he is a businessman. However, he has grown up in this industry as well. He has helped to cultivate this industry, and I'm not going to defend him as a business person, but I can honestly feel in my heart and believe at least that these decisions were not made solely on Vince's shoulders, nor were these decisions made lightly. So, what does that mean for the WWE? What does that mean for us as the WWE universe? So, first and foremost, there is a lot of talk about the fact that had the WWE not taken the actions that it had it continued to just do box shows for the rest of the year and not even have audiences for the remainder of the year, they would have remained significantly solvent, and they would have been able to turn a profit even, which in this environment is absolutely amazing and completely unheard of in some certain circumstances. However, there's a lot of things you have to consider, and again, I am not in any way, shape, or form condoning what the WWE did. It's horrible. And I don't think they handled it well. And I'll get to that in a second. But when you are looking at a situation where you don't know how long it's going to be before you can pack an arena again, and the real likelihood and the reality is it might be a couple months if we all listen and do what we're told. However, the also likelihood is that we're going to have a second, and depending on how people react, maybe even a third wave of this, particularly in the wintertime, when viruses are more likely to grow because they don't like heat. And we've all seen so far that, from what we understand, this particular virus does not like heat. So it'll die down some in the summer, but we're also anticipating it coming back in the fall. And even every medical professional that you talk to is likely going to tell you the exact same thing. So when you're looking at that as a possibility, when you're looking at the fact that even on a much downgraded admittance policy, you're probably not going to get the head counts that you are accustomed to getting, there's that aspect of it from the arena side of things. And it could very well be the fact that the promoters at the arena say, hey, look, we can't book you right now. We just can't do it. You also have to take into account the fact that USA and Fox, from what has been alleged, came to the WWE and basically demanded that they start doing live shows again, or else the contracts were going to have to be reconsidered. And that makes sense. From USA and Fox's standpoint, their contract and the money that they are paying the WWE is based on X many number of live shows a year. If they're not getting those live shows, then yes, the contracts are going to have to be reconsidered. And if the contracts have to be reconsidered, where does that leave the WWE if the only medium with which to get out their product is going to be the WWE network, which we all know is starting to kind of falter? So they have to look at that. And they don't know how long that's going to play out. Because again, if they can't get into arenas because either A, the actual arenas themselves are locked down, or B, the arenas won't be able to be as full as they need to be in order to match the numbers that have been promised to USA and Fox for their live shows, it gets hard. And you do have to make very difficult decisions. And business is not fair. Unfortunately, that's the way we have promoted business, is that business is not fair. You do what you have to do for your stakeholders. The other aspect of this is that because WWE is publicly traded, they have to answer to the stockholders. They have to answer to the people, regardless of whether Vince has the majority share, they still have to answer to the rest of the stakeholders and to the rest of the stockholders. And if they aren't happy, then they're going to have to do what they need to do to make the stockholders happy again. So if the stockholders want to see, hey, look, this thing is the way it is right now, and it's not ideal, and we don't like it, but what is your plan going forward to make sure that this stays afloat? And the easiest way you can do that is to say, okay, well, this is how we're going to do this. And this is how we're going to do this without dipping into our credit, our lines of credit, because as a business, you don't want to do that either if you can avoid it. And the stakeholders are happy, then that's what happens. Now, along those lines, layoffs like this on a publicly traded company are not going to happen unless the board agrees on it. Now, yes, the board consists of McMahon, Stephanie, and Triple H. So they have a bit of a monopoly there in regards to how the board votes. However, there are enough members of the board that had they turned around and said, no, we're not going to do this and we're going to vote this down, it would have been voted down. So we can't put the sole blame on one person. As much as we would like to do so, and as much as it is easy to do so, it is not the right thing to do. Now, though we shouldn't solely put the onus for all of this on Vince's shoulders, because obviously the board and the stakeholders have a play in how the decisions were made within the company. And the stakeholders can very well turn around and say, hey, look, we don't like what you did, and move to vote Vince out, whether the board wants to or not. That can happen. It's not likely to with Vince owning the majority share of the stock, but it is something that can be done, and it's a corporate coup, and it probably wouldn't actually take place, and we're getting into a whole nother realm of things that we don't need to worry about right now. But though we should not be placing the blame solely on Vince, how it was all handled, and the timing of it especially, was atrocious. I'm going to put a disclaimer right now. I am not putting politics into this at all. If politics get brought up in the comments, they will be muted because I'm not going to deal with that here on my channel. That's not what this channel is about. But that being said, the whole aspect of getting the WWE listed as essential employees so that they could come to Florida and be able to perform at the Performance Center so that they could do live shows, so that they could fulfill their contracts with USA and Fox. Yeah, okay, iffy, but I can understand from a business standpoint if you can manage to get that to happen and you can get the governor to say, sure, why not? Let's try it, right? However, to then do that and then the next day, or actually a couple of days later, a week later, and actually I think in this case, to then turn around a week later, have all of these layoffs and furloughs for a very valid reason in this climate, as much as we don't want to admit it, it is a valid reason. At least from a bottom line standpoint, to do that on the same day that your wife, who previously worked on the administration and is now heading a super PAC, is promising that the super PAC is going to pay the state money for their electoral funds, it's taking the politics out of it, because it doesn't matter who the players are. Just it's not good optics. So I ended up having technical difficulties again. I'm still new at this, so bear with me. I apologize. But if I remember correctly, I left off talking about how the optics weren't very good with how this particular layoff and how this particular transition was handled. And that's the truth. The unfortunate side of that is that there's no real way to handle situations like this delicately. However, I have a feeling that with how things were handled, the McMahons are going to be dealing with it on the legal side moving forward for quite some time. Again, I'm going to take the politics out of it, so please bear that in mind. If you put anything political in my comments, they're going to be muted, because I don't want that on my channel and I don't need to deal with that here. That's not what this is about. What this is ultimately about at the end of the day is that you can sit there and you can compare the WWE to other promotions like AEW or New Japan. Reality is you can't really compare it to New Japan, because New Japan is handled under Asian laws and Japan laws, and those are completely different. If you've studied business at all, you will know that every country has its own business law and it's not all the same. So you really can't compare New Japan or how New Japan is doing anything to how things are being handled here in the States. When you do compare WWE to AEW, what you will find and what you will see is that AEW works with a significantly smaller overhead. It works with a significantly smaller roster. And though, yes, the AEW has big names on their roster, and those names are paid accordingly for what they bring to the And though AEW has big names on its roster and those names are paid accordingly for what they bring, they are still working with a much larger buffer overall than an organization like WWE. You do get to a point as a business where you can get too big almost, and that can actually be a hindrance for you, particularly in situations like this. So it is highly unfortunate that we have gone through this as the WWE community and as the WWE universe. You can think what you want either way. I can't put the blame solely on Vince, because it wasn't just Vince's decision. He may have been the catalyst for it, but it was not ultimately completely up to him. Even if they hold a monopoly on the board, regardless, it's still not completely up to him. There are things that can still be done on the business side of things that could come back and bite him, and I'm sure that decision was not made without taking those things into consideration. It's just unfortunate, and right now it's done, it's happened, we have to move forward from it. I think what Seth said on his social media was very apropos for the situation, and think what you will about what he said or why he said it. The gist of the matter is that he's correct. Now, whether unifying means actually coming together and unionizing, if they are able to do so, that would be great if they could. However, even if it just means unifying and coming together as a family, because at the end of the day, when you are in an entertainment business like the WWE, you are all a family. And it is very difficult to describe if you haven't been in that environment. It's just really hard to relate to somebody if they have not been on the road like that, if they have not been part of a production that is ongoing. That yes, it's a family. It really truly is, and those decisions are not made lightly. So if they're able to unify and come together, they need that right now, because when you're letting go of people like Kurt Angle, when you're letting go of people like Fit Finlay, who's been there forever, when you're letting go of names like that, it doesn't matter who you are. You're walking into the performance center now wondering if it's going to be your last performance, unless you have something written into your contract that states otherwise. And I don't know how many performers have that in place. It's even more so for the staff. The staff has an even bigger weight on their shoulders because, again, they don't know if they're going to walk in and be like, sorry guys, we need to pare this down a little bit more. It wasn't handled well. I think we can all agree with that. There's so many different variables that you have to consider, and it's hard to consider those variables if you've not been in those environments, both business and or entertainment. And it's just hard. It's really, really hard. So I think what we all need to do as the WWE universe is, if you're one of those that's going to throw in the towel and walk away, that's fine. I understand that. I think quite a few of us would understand that given the circumstances. If you're someone like me who doesn't like it necessarily, but can understand why, and can understand, given the world environment, why it took place, and therefore are going to stand by it, or at least stand by the company and the performers and the staff that are trying to put on this entertainment for us, then I think it's important that we need to move forward with where things are currently. We need to unify just like the performers and the staff need to unify, so that we can show the stakeholders and show the stockholders that this is a product that we all want to continue to see. I think it's important for those that were let go who believed in the product that they were creating. And I think it's just important for the wrestling community, regardless of which federations you follow or not, that that's the case, so that they can see that it's something that we enjoy. If you have received any sort of entertainment, of laughter, of happiness, of investment in what any of these performers have done, or in what this federation has provided over the years, then I think that that's important. But those are my thoughts, guys. I hope you have appreciated my take on this from both my own personal experiences within the entertainment industry, as well as what my degree happens to be in. If you have comments, by all means, leave them below. I don't mind having a debate so long as it's respectful. And I would like to do that and be able to provide you guys all with the format to do that as well. If you've enjoyed my perspective, if you have enjoyed these few minutes of my take on things, then please hit the like button. Also hit subscribe and the notification bell so you can be updated when I upload more content. I, again, also am planning on uploading a tag team video along with this that goes over my pops and blown spots for this week. So I'm going to try again to put that up in here. Like I mentioned, I'm a newbie to this, so I'm still learning how everything works with editing and whatnot. But again, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you taking some time with me today. And until next week, have a good one. Thanks.